I'm coming to the last presentation of this day. We are late, but afterwards there is the chance to provide questions, and we try to answer your questions. So the experts will be there, and there will be the chance to ask for more details or whatever has remained unclear. Some facts and figures you already have heard, more or less most of these things during the day. READ has started on the 1st of January. It will run until the middle of 2019. It received a grant of 8.2 million euro. There are 13 partners, 10 more organizations will join as associated partners or via a memorandum of understanding, but also others are welcome, and we are happy to incorporate more institutions. Our objectives are applied research in pattern recognition and human language technology, that's clear, and to provide services for archives, humanities scholars, volunteers and computer scientists, and there should be a kind of network building. We want to support this network building among these user groups. The READ Consortium comprises several universities from Germany, Spain, United Kingdom, Austria, and also archives, as they already have been mentioned. And here's also a list of the Memorandum of Understanding partners, among them the Australian National Library and many others also from Germany and other European countries. But the main question I will touch now in my last presentation is what will remain once the project has finished its work in June 2019. Because I'm often, people are asking me, okay, you are now receiving a lot of money, but what will be actually there once the project funding is gone, and what is your perspective? I think publications will remain. The H2020 grant agreement has now the regulation that all scientific publications need to be published as open access. So we must ensure that our publications are freely available, either via the golden way, so that they are directly published as open access, or via 6 months after the publication at the commercial publisher, that they are made available via the green way, via a repository. And we have set a key performance indicator for these publications. We said, okay, 15 to 25 scientific publications per year should be produced. And I think also this sounds rather clear. It is important to see that a research project has as one as its main objectives publications, scientific publications. This is the way we are gathering knowledge, and how we treat knowledge, and how people can learn and improve technology and algorithms and knowledge. Then a very important point are research data. Again, the H2020 grant agreement says something about this in Article 29.3, open access to research data. Regarding the visual research data generated in the action, the beneficiaries must A. deposit in a research data repository and take measures to make it possible for third parties to access, mine, exploit, reproduce and disseminate free of charge for any user the following: the data, including associated metadata needed to validate the results presented in scientific publications as soon as possible. So this is a strong requirement, and actually at our university it was discussed in detail, and our computer center was somehow upset to fulfill all these requirements. So that's a very important and initiative. What are research data in READ? Mainly these are images and corresponding reference data, so-called ground truth. So the images are somehow the raw material, the reference data, so they are representing the expected, the perfect output, and the data is what is actually produced by an algorithm or a tool. So the example image of a page, we already have seen this. Correct text of a page would be the reference data, and the data, the actual text produced by the HDR engine. The difference between the expected result and the actual result is the result of a scientific experiment, e.g. measured as a word error rate and published in a scientific publication. So there is this strong link between the scientific publication and the underlying research data. Research data are used for evaluation, as I have already said, the difference between the expected and the actual result. But they are also very useful for problem description and requirements specification. Because once a user and also the experts are forced to define in detail what shall be the result of a tool, many questions will come up. And a deep discussion will take place, which most often can only be solved in a satisfying way if domain experts and computer scientists are working together and define these requirements. So to define the reference data is somehow a hard task, or is an intellectual task, which makes a lot of sense and is responsible for the success of a project. And also reference data are important for machine learning. They are used as training data, as we have heard. Most tools developed in the project are based on machine learning algorithms, and they need to, therefore, to be trained. We also have set a key performance indicator for the research data in READ. We said that we want to set up a data set with at least 3 million images, with at least 50,000 pages of reference data at the end of the project. So why such a large amount? I think it is important that reference data and the data sets the computer scientists are working with represent actually the variety of archival documents as we can find them in the archives in Europe, and representing different languages, different cultures, different periods of editing. And I always say this when I'm talking to people, that we are very much interested in any kind of digitized document collection. These document collections need not to be complete. Also, sample sets are sufficient for our purposes, but they should should represent the underlying total amount, and therefore we expect to receive 100,000 of images from external partners, and we are happy to store them and to work with them. So progress in the computer science is strongly connected to the availability of large data sets, and that's what I really want to emphasize here. Research data also can be used for competitions. As you have seen, competitions are nowadays a very popular way to measure somehow the progress in a specific research field, e.g. writer identification, but also there were several competitions for HDR, and Roger Laban was so modest not to mention that his group won several of the recent competitions in HDR recognition. So we also have a task for this in READ, that we will try to organize or to take part in competitions for our research fields. Yeah, they are important as evaluation of competition results, and they make competitions more attractive if there are large amounts with sufficient amount of reference data, because to produce reference data is rather expensive, and a lot of tools have been developed in the computer science to produce ground truth more effectively, but at the end you need at least a small set of really carefully generated data. So we are very happy that we were able to include 160,000 euro in our budget, which are foreseen for subcontractors, for service providers, creating reference data. Yeah, as I said, this reference data will have several functions and cover several features, e.g. correct text, correct writer attribution, e.g. we are very happy for collections of letters, because often there is a digital edition going on where the names of the writers are known, and e.g. we received a very nice data set from the Huygens Institute in the Netherlands. They have the Clusius collection with thousands of letters written by several hundreds of writers, and we will be able to use this collection for writer identification and competitions in this field. Yeah, it can also be just the correct person name on a page level, or the correct layout elements such as the text lines, the text blocks, tables or cells or forms. Also the detailed descriptions of tables will play a role. And in principle it can be everything what is interesting for archives scholars or the public. And as we have heard in the morning, the neural networks or these machine learning tools are able to learn more or less everything what is taught to them. And so we are open also to suggestions from the community. And these research data shall be made available according to the requirements, e.g. via a research data platform like Zenodo, or if our data sets are too large, they will be downloadable from our website. And last but not least, also the open source software will play a big role. So nearly all of the software which is developed in READ will be available as open source. It is not an obligation in the grant agreement, although it was part of specific requirements for this e-infrastructure call where we took part. Yeah, during 2016 we will take the first steps into this direction and move parts of the software to GitHub or a similar platform so that people can contribute and also do know that they can build up their own services or their own workflows. Yeah, one of the advantages is that, as Sebastian said before, most of the tools will be implemented in Transkribus, in the platform. So users also have the chance to try out the tools in a running environment, and if they are convinced, they may go on with it in their local environment. Okay, so to provide a short interim summary: open access to publications, open research data, open source for the software tools. So from my point of view, an expert user has more or less everything together what is necessary to dive deeper into the results of the project, and all these publications, data and open source will be available at open platforms or at repositories which are maintained independently of the project and independently of our interests and further working. But I have to mention one more thing, which is also one of the main work packages in READ, and this is the creation of an open platform. You already heard most of it about it from Sebastian. So this platform, we try to build a platform which provides recognition, transcription and enrichment of historical documents as a general infrastructure for archives, libraries, humanities scholars, volunteers, the public and computer scientists. So why a platform? The main idea is to provide the software as a service, and to implement the full range of tools requires actually a lot of work to put them together into workflows. We are dealing partly with research prototypes, so not real products or APIs where the integration might be rather easy, but these are sets of tools and libraries and scripts which need to be put together. So that's not a product in the narrow sense of the word. So for us, it is of course easier to have this software running in a central place and to provide all the environments which is necessary to run it. Then, why a platform? Machine learning, as we already heard, requires large amounts of training data. If we have the chance to combine efforts and to gather all the training data which are generated by several different projects, then of course more data are available and can be used internally in the platform to improve the underlying algorithms. E.g., we have a very active user from the University of Greifswald. They are transcribing German text from the 17th or 18th century, and of course the model developed in there or developed for these writing might also be useful for other writings which are uploaded to the platform. Then cooperation. I think real success can only come if collaboration takes place between content holders, scholars, computer scientists and volunteers. So the platform may serve as a mediation tool. For me, the key word in the background is digital humanities. Digital humanities is now a way to have a different look to the humanities, a look which is very much guided by a data-driven approach. And platforms such as the one we try to build will support digital humanities projects, and that's always a kind of collaboration necessary. And standardization. Standardization is often mentioned as a requirement, but in the humanities, standardization does not play the role one would expect, or many things should be higher standardized than they are now. And of course, to set a standard is always a lot of discussion and interests and many things play together. So to e.g. really set a standard for a digital edition, just by discussing the best way how to edit an archival document is hard and will lead to many formats and many guidelines and so on and so on. But at the end, my hope is that the standardization will come more through the back door, through using tools and services, and then this standardization will be a de facto standardization and just carried out because it makes sense. So the real benefit, e.g. of digital editions, from my point of view, will be enjoyed once we have comparable digital editions and have the chance to search and use them across the single websites where they are published. Okay, in the middle of the service platform there is this transcribus. So we are obliged, this was one of the requirements at the application, to run the service platform the very first day of the project. We are also obliged to provide a business plan in month 12, where we try to outline, or a bit more than outline, really to provide a more operational plan, how we want to implement it after month 12 and how we want to maintain the service platform and to sustain it during the project and after the end of the project. So the final objective is to run and maintain the service platform also after the end of the project and to find a business model for this, which will need to find a solution between, on the one hand, the openness and our plans to involve the community, and on the other hand, to provide services which are useful and which require resources and therefore also will have a cost effect. So we are thinking in the usual direction of such service platforms to define different service levels and to provide a set of free services or all services for free, but above certain limits there will be some kind of fees or whatever will be applied. Yeah, thank you a lot. You can access the platform already, and we are really happy for your feedback. Thank you. Okay, so I may ask you to ask anyone who has talked today.
My name is Andreas Gutierrez from the Academy of Science in Mainz, and I have a question for Louis Seaboard. I would be interested in the fact how many she has just told us that she has 26 volunteers, and how many fixed persons she has in the project, and how many time consuming is it to just to take care of the quality of the volunteers' work? What are the relations? What are the benefits? Is she here?
Hi, yeah, so we have 26 super transcribers, but obviously anyone can register to transcribe, so we might get extra people working on it. I check the manuscripts myself, and we also have I think 4 or 5 students who work checking the transcripts part-time. So I work full-time on transcribing them, so I spend some part of the week checking transcripts, and other times managing the website. So, for example, we have a leaderboard of points, so if you transcribe a certain number of manuscripts, you get a certain number of points, so you have to update that manually. And another example, when transcribers start transcribing, they like to start with a fresh manuscript that no one else has worked on, so we have to keep updating the list of all the sort of the untranscribed manuscripts. So there's a lot of things on the website that need to be updated manually, but we're lucky to have help of sort of part-time people to help, so it is very time-consuming to manage it. Yeah, we've done some figures about how long it takes to check each manuscript. I think for checking a single one, if it's one that's in an okay condition, not that sort of terrible writing that we saw on the screen, you can check it in less than 6 minutes. But that depends on the layout, the quality of the manuscript, and also the experience of the user. So if it's a new user, they tend to make a lot of mistakes, and they also make more mistakes with the TI markup than with they can transcribe text quite accurately, but they make mistakes when they do the tags. So if there's a lot of tags, that can take longer to check. But with our super transcribers, so those 26, we can generally trust what they do. They transcribe very accurately. So if it's a super transcriber, you can check quite quickly.
I have a follow-up question for that. You mentioned the newbie transcribers, so to say, and that you have to check them a lot and they make mistakes. Do you have a feedback loop, or are you correcting the mistakes they make?
From the experience that we have, it usually takes a new transcriber between 6 to 12 transcripts to get sort of good at transcribing and to be able to do it more accurately. So if you have a new transcriber and the text isn't accurate, you would leave a message on their wall, sort of thanking them for their contribution and sort of nudging them about where they might have gone wrong. Also on the transcription desk we have a changes tab, so they send to the transcript and then they can see the changes that the editors have made when they check. So they have sort of a double way of checking, and then through that hopefully they learn and can improve.
Just a quick question. You're Wettlauf from Academy of Science, Göttingen. I have a question about the workflow of the transcribers platform. As far as I remember, after the transcription of a few thousand words, there has to be there is a model that has to be built. And how long will this take? So will this be kind of on-the-fly service? Because I remember that in earlier versions of your tool, it takes some time, and it would have been computed in Spain for small. Are there any news on this, or how quick this will be possible?
Well, we have implemented the training algorithm also in Innsbruck, so we are doing the training with a standardized version from Valencia, but it is an offline thing, so someone has to write an email and say, please, can you check, does it make sense to train a model? But then the training is very fast. It takes just with the standard thing, it takes several hours or maybe a day or two.
I have another question to Mrs. Seawood. You told us that you want to change the editor because maybe it's with the tagging and XML, it's too user unfriendly, or why do you think it's necessary to change the editor? And then I have another question for Mr. Kaplan. Mr. Kaplan, I want to know about the database, and if you have more than one, and which are these, what kind of database systems you use, and about the data format you save to the database. Thanks.
Yes, I mentioned in my talk that we want to integrate what you see is what you get toolbar rather than the TI toolbar. So if Bentham has underlined something, the user will just click underlined, and then that will how it appear in the transcript rather than the tags. The reason we want to change that is basically in the user surveys that we've done. That's one of the things that the users have said they found difficult. I think in the users that we've surveyed, 60 to 70% of them had no knowledge of what text encoding was before they started. And some of them are very good at it now, but obviously they find that difficult. And that means that when we check the transcripts, we spend more time checking the text encoding and making sure that's right, rather than the accuracy of the text. So if we have the coding being hidden, that'll help us to concentrate on the accuracy of the transcription.
Okay, so in terms of standards, there are different levels. The annotation tools on the documents are constructed on, the image servers are constructed on IIF, which is now becoming a mostly used image server, which permits to put most of the effort on the server side. I mean, you don't maintain different version of the document, and you query a special version on your of your image. So it's a standard which is now spreading quite well and permits to interconnect the elements. We use the shared canvas standard for constructing and documenting the document, and linked with that is the open annotation standard to make the link between the cropped images and their transcription, tags, etc. So all this is an effort from several years, which is now well matured. These are all pretty good standards. And that permits in particular to document, especially open annotation, the meta historical information. That means that you can always keep track about who is inputting. So we work with students, like hundreds of students, so we need to be sure they're not destroying too much thing. And so there's always a traceability about who makes the changes, but also for the boats, in the sense that when you have a transcription system, our approach is to consider it's a boat, that in fact transcription system has the same rights as authors, and they are in the same way that you have bad transcribers, you have bad boats, and you want to remove potentially from the database, not remove it, but not see, let's say, annotation from certain person or certain groups, or annotation from certain software. This is the basis of the annotation system. Now we export with a steady stream everything in RDF. And so we have a big graph. So when you saw the population growing, that was based on the big graph database, RDF standard. And that's on that base that we do the reasoning systems and make inferences, check for inconsistency. I mean, if two people meet but one is already dead, then we have to check this, and this is done on the graph database based on logical inferences. We don't come back usually and But yeah, so this is more or less. Does that answer your questions? No.
Only goes from the Albert Einstein Archives in Jerusalem. I have a question to all my colleagues, but maybe you will be able to answer it more than anybody else. We have contractual constraints in publishing all of our material because 40 years ago the archives signed a contract with a publisher who published long-term collected papers of Albert Einstein, which is our collection, and they got exclusive right to publishing. So my question is, I'm worried that I will not be able, with my archive, to participate in READ, because every material I will use will perforce have to be available to the general public. Do you understand that right, or is there a solution if anybody encounter this problem?
Thank you a lot for this question, because I was talking that we are obliged to make research data available and publications and so on. But you, as a user, your documents are always private in the platform. No one else has access to the documents than you. So you can upload your own documents. You will not infringe copyright. You can upload them and run the tools, do your work, export it, and take it with you. And so you're completely free to use the services. No need to publish anything, and even not to share it with anyone else than just you. That's clear. I mean, that's also for humanities scholars very important, that they have a sheltered place for working, and that the publication comes at the end.
I'm actually not so much worried about sharing, because sharing actually doesn't constitute publishing.
Okay.
My problem is if it has to be available to the general public without limitation, and that's where we run into problems. Sharing with other archives or other institutions cooperating with the platform is not a problem.
Okay, so sharing is easy because you can always invite users to your collection, and then they have access, but it's not the public, it's just a private collection.
I have a question for Ruju. Actually, I'm working from Library of Alexandria, and I am working about various digitalization projects, especially in Arabic. And actually, we are digitizing that Arabic texts through workflow, and OCR have a lot of efforts there. And OCR in Arabic have until now somehow ambiguous character to recognize. You mentioned that you have a test Arabic text, and I'd like to know about this experience.
Yeah, actually it was in the competition 2013, in the ICTAR, I guess, competition, was Arabic newspaper text. And with these ambitious, if I got this right, with these ambitious letters or signs or something, in a sense that's always on the user's side. So what I explained today was the kernel engine, but the user has, of course, to explain what kind of answer he is expecting. And if he, for instance, identifies different channels to be the same sign, or to distinguish between different sort of writings, let's say, or different versions of the very same sign, then it's on the side of the user to explain these things and to explain it to our engine, in a sense. So let's say I cannot explain it in Arabic because we did this work, but we never understand what we really did or read or could read there. So I can only explain this in German. And for instance, one special thing in German language is this thing with these umlaut, right? You have this just the letter A, and you have the umlaut, the A with the dots on top, right? And at some point you might take care or you may not take care, and so you can identify these channels, or you can really differ or try to distinguish between the symbol. So everything here is possible. It's a kind of matter of definition of the alphabet, and you decide. And then we train the network, and they only very important thing is that the thing you expect to get at as an answer from the system, you have also to provide in the learning data. So if you expect these standards to be distinguished, then your learning data also has to distinguish between these characters, labels, whatever it is, different pronunciation, I don't know, whatever it can be. So this is not a matter of the engine itself. Did it answer your question?
My question is to everybody who's reported on handwritten text recognition. One important feature of, I think, most pre-modern handwritten texts is abbreviations. And since nobody mentioned that, I was just wondering, have you given any thought to this? Is this a technical challenge all of its own, or will it be handled by the learning processes that you've described? I understand that there's also some crowdsourcing being done on the Capelli dictionary. Maybe this could be integrated.
We have thought a lot about it. Well, in Transcriptorium, one of the last collections we took was one medieval book from the Spanish Inquisition, which has about 30% of the words are abbreviated and are not in a fully consistent manner. So some abbreviations change over the pages, and so in the end we have had to develop new machine learning algorithms in order to discover the variations in the way the words are abbreviated. So now we are able to train a system with a modernized version of the text, not a diplomatic version of the text, which is the usual transcript, the usual way of transcription that you need for training, but with a modernized version. So the system finds how to unmodernize or how to diplomatize the modern version into a diplomatic version that matches the text with the abbreviations unexpanded. So you have the abbreviation expanded, but the system do the abbreviation so that it matches the text, and then the system is trained in this way. So this is some of the work we want to continue in READ. But this was started already in Transcriptorium. I don't know if this answers your question, but this is a major challenge. This is one of the real challenge for handwriting recognition of, in particular for medieval text. Medieval texts are plagued of this kind of difficulties. But I think the perspectives are good.
I'd also like to address either the Rostock or the Valencia or the Athens group. We've learned a lot about new approaches or recent methods in HDR. What I'd like to know is how these newly developed engines can be trained to cope with or deal with mix-ups of printed and handwritten material. For instance, you have a lot of archival holdings from the 19th and 20th century where you have printed forms with handwritten entries, for instance, the registers.
Yeah, this obviously is a standard situation, and we can handle it in both engines. And the standard way, for instance, I can only, from this point, I can only speak for the recurrent neural network things. We have trained networks, for instance, on printed letters, and those can easily read the printed portion of a form, let's say, or table headers or things like that. And we have networks for handwritten stuff, but also what we have is sort of universal networks, or try to have. And in the first place, we may use these to roughly distinguish between these portions. And what is very often the case is that you will not reread the pre-printed document part of the whatever register card or whatever we had. And once you know this is pre-printed and you can assign it or sort of align it to your form template, let's say, then you only ask the handwriting network for the handwritten part. So it's a standard problem, and it's somehow solved. Well, it's always easy. It's another matter because what we notice is that very often you have these handwritten portions written over the like field labels or something. So if these things really got physically mixed, then it may be a new problem. But if it's just on one card, both kinds of writing, then it's not a problem. They can really deal with these things.
My name is Klaus Lippert from the archives of the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. As discussion has come so far to discuss details like my pre-asking colleague, I would like to give another example of a somewhat extreme case and ask especially to the Rostock group but also to other possible contributors to a special case with regard to especially to matriculation rolls and enrollment registers of universities. Imagine a table of about 100,000 lines containing the entries of the students of one single university, and then throughout the 19th century. And those 100,000 lines are written by, let us say, 20,000 writers. Would you say, oh, leave us alone, there's not enough ground truth, one keyword of our speakers today, to train our machines? Or would you say, well, if you provide us with 10% transcription, this would be ideal to train our engines to the variety of handwritings. Very interested in your answers.
I love this question. Because actually many people or several people asked me the question that at least one colleague today asked, that he was surprised that I grow so old within a short period. And the reason was that weeks ago he met my son in Rostock and not me. And my son in Rostock actually led a project over the last years where the complete enrollment, I guess is the right English word, the matricle list from the Rostock University, and now we're speaking since 1418, if I'm correct, the complete one, has been edited. So we have enough training data for university enrollment lists, and we will just take the Rostock one and try to train a network and read the Karlsruhe one, which is only, 150 years or something. So I would not say leave me alone, but the reason is that I have the ground truth in the background in my family.
Any other question? No other question. Is that true? Is that possible? Well, if there is no question left for today, thanks a lot, first of all, to all of you, to our speakers, to our contributors, to the ones who helped us organizing this first day. Now, before you all leave, just let me repeat that all of you are very warmly invited to a little public reception. All of you really with a little stuzzicadente, with a little finger food and a little sparkling wine, and then up for something like an hour or something. And then the partners of READ, of Co-op, and the colleagues from the Hessian State Archives will have a meal in here. So thanks again, and see you tomorrow.